Buckle up and get ready for a roller coaster ride of some tasteless humor, lots of heart, and radical truth with two scrappy chicks. Because adulting is hard, but we are thinking that laughing about it is just so much easier.
Thanks for coming back and joining us once again. We have another really great show for you. Um, there is something that we wanted to share with everybody. I think we're at the point in our lives where we're being able to, I guess, allow ourselves to talk about more. And I know for me, this is something that's really affected me since the day that it happened. And what's kind of brought this up even more is there's a show out right now, but I'm going to get into that in just a second. What I wanted to say was, I wanted to share a story from our memory, from our perspective at the time, of a really tragic and life-altering event that happened in our small town. And we were both in Des Plaines, Illinois. It's where we grew up, born and raised. And this began in December of 1978. And we were both 9 years old at the time. Now, we have older siblings who are 6 years older than us. So they were in school at the high school at Maine West High School. So our older siblings went to school with and were friends with Robert Peast. And it's probably a name that you've heard quite a bit. And because we were in Des Plaines and our families, at least our siblings, were going to that high school, they we just happened to know about the family and know about Rob. And we have well, I have one specific memory of Rob when he came to our home and had to be on a Sunday because our dad was home, and he came with an older boy. And I remember our father telling my sister there was no way she was going out with these two because of the older boy who was 18. And my sister, in true teenage fashion, proceeded to tear the house apart because she was so mad that she wasn't going to be allowed to go out with them and, hang out with them. That's my only memory of Rob. And that was probably the summer before this incident happened. And so much of what's happening was not talked about in our home at the time when this first happened. Parents did not talk about it, especially to kids. And we're Gen X, or at least my parents didn't talk to me about stuff like this. And only thing that I remember hearing or seeing are the newspapers, the nightly news, and then hearing my sister asking my parents, our parents, over and over again if they thought that they were ever going to find Rob because they knew he didn't run away. They knew he just wasn't that kind of kid. And I very vividly remember all the flyers were all over town. And then they were also handed out at our local parish, Our Lady of Hope. And all the parents were really on edge. And I remember this, and this was, 1978 and then into 1979. And our usually extremely permissive parents were all of a sudden on high alert and needed to know at every moment where I was, where are you going, who are you going to be with, call me when you get there, what time are you coming home. This was so surreal at the time because, as a child, you think this is just not going to be a bad thing. This is going to be okay, right? Someone's going to find him, he's going to come home. In your mind, or in my child mind at the time, I was like, they're going to figure this out. As a child, I just wasn't concerned. What I saw on TV later when they were then excavating, for lack of a better term, this person's house, then it took a very dark turn. And honestly, from my perspective, ever since that time, that's colored and affected my life and how I raised my children because the moment they were out of my sight, even for a few minutes, that is where my mind went automatically. I was in sheer panic, sheer terror, because that is the most horrific feeling that you can have, is not to know where your child is and if they're somewhere crying and asking for you. That's where my mind went, and my mind still goes today, even though my children are adults. Absolutely heartbreaking what this family had gone through and the other families. And um, there are a lot of books and TV shows, and this is kind of, like I said, what brought this up. There's a series currently that, in my opinion, is probably the more accurate about what happened in terms of how it matches with my memories of that town, that pharmacy, and what happened in terms of on the social level of the people and the families and of the kids, like our siblings. It's on Peacock and it's called Devil in Disguise. Now, I haven't finished it yet. What episode are you on, Ginger?
Uh, 2 or 3. I
And I
I
think,
want,
yeah, I think I'm like at 5 or 6. And I
and
know,
there's
like I said, it's
8.
it's just brought this up where you just don't. Oh, there's 8. Okay. Yeah, 8 in total. And this just brought this up because it's like, you made a very good point that has this family ever known peace? Have any of these families known peace since the moment their child had gone missing? And it just keeps getting brought up over and over and over again. And as someone, you know, that it's, it's that to me is almost as bad as losing that person because it's like it never ends. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, like if that was my brother and I lost my brother like that, yeah, I don't think
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I totally would be affected as an adult. Because I wanted to see where his family was at
Uh-huh.
now, and his mom and dad divorced not too long after this happened with Rob, which is sad. And like you said, tragedy sometimes makes you or breaks you. And the brother went on to be a successful doctor in that, and then he died, I think, of cancer. I'm not sure. It doesn't really say, but he was young. He was only 53.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think
and,
so.
and then his
Yeah, he
sister
did. Yeah.
is living a quiet life. And I can I can't imagine, what she's going through, and obviously she's going to be affected with this coming out. Anytime they do anything more, about Gacy, whether someone writes a book or a series comes out, I'm sure all the families affected, it hits them still. I mean, that will never go away. And like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
watching it now as an adult and seeing how sick and twisted he was, and I'm just like, why would you do that? And do you remember the part where his mom and sister came, and the mom was like trying to blame other things, and the sister was calling the mom out? Quit blaming other things. He obviously did it. And he didn't live in Des Plaines, right? Wasn't his house in like Schiller Park or something?
No, he lived in unincorporated Park Ridge, Norwood Park,
Oh, okay. So what the heck was he coming to Des Plaines?
and they just demolished the house. Now, the only thing that I can say is because of unincorporated Plains, you're right, Norwood Park. It was the thing is that what also makes this a pivotal case because of Rob is because of Rob, because of the good family that he came from, because he was such a good kid. He did not die in vain. It is strictly because of him that Gacy was finally caught, arrested, jailed, and executed.
Yeah,
But he went undetected and did this for many years. And I think because of this case too, many additional, like the police stations, police departments really didn't communicate. There wasn't like an offender registry, I don't think. So a lot of things have changed since that time, but it's far from a perfect system still. So,
yeah. I was looking up stuff, his house. So yeah, they did demolish it, and they said there was 29 bodies from the property. 26 was from a crawl space and 3 elsewhere on the lot. and they tore it down in April 1979 because it was a crime scene and a safety hazard. And it was empty until a house was built on the lot 1986, and they changed the address. And I wonder if it's like haunted, you know? I wouldn't.
Well, no, I think the house is gone. If
It
I'm not mistaken, I think that house was demolished because nobody wanted to buy it, and they were talking about putting a park there. I think it's still vacant land.
No,
Are you
it,
checking?
it, yeah, yeah. It says it was demolished and it was vacant until a new house was built in 86, and then they changed the address. So that's why I was saying, I wonder if it's like if this house is haunted with, the spirits of it. These guys died a gruesome death. And there was survivors too. And but like you were saying earlier, where the heck did he get the chloroform?
Yes. And they have, yes, because that's something that they're not talking about in the series. At least they haven't yet. That's how he got a lot of these guys, is that he chloroformed them. And my question is, as a contractor, was that readily available? Was that something you could just buy? I mean, this was a very different time. This was 1978. So, and prior to, I mean, he was on a rampage. He did this for a long
Yeah,
time. Where did he get it from? Did he know somebody? Was someone else involved with this? That's one of the questions that I have, because how does anyone get their hands on chloroform?
right. The house there now looks like a beautiful house. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,500 square feet. And they said it has changed like owners quite frequently. Um, and it's worth, how much is it worth? Says it's worth about 545,000. But I think what he had there was a ranch. So, yeah, I guess in that area,
Yeah, he
houses
did,
are
with just
worth
a crawl
about,
space, no basement. Well, I mean, yeah.
so it said, I don't know, I guess they tried selling it in 2021 and they removed the listing, so I don't know if they didn't sell it or what. And it was listed in during COVID. Let's see, when else? It was listed 2019. So yeah, I think people find out, yeah, it's not the house per se, but just a lot. And I think that would freak out people. And that reminds me of um when I've worked many jobs. This is when I was scrappy single parent. I worked for a real estate agent, and I had to go around to the houses, pick up the cards that people left that showed the house, and just make sure everything was okay. Some of them were empty, right? And the one house I really didn't want to go to was in Naperville. And it was a kid that killed, I want to say, his mom and dad and sister, but the other sister didn't get killed. I think she was away at college. So she was the last one left and she was selling it. And of course, you have to disclose that stuff. So eventually it did sell. Um, but it was cleaned up in that, but it was just I hated going there by myself because I think my mind went wild. And I mean, it's just sad,
Mm-mm.
but you know, um, the poor girl left behind, she had to get on with her life and sell the house, you know?
I know. So yeah, I mean, so just unfortunately, I wish I could say that this was still not a common thing. And I want to do a podcast on intuition and following your intuition because what people also don't seem to understand is that Gacy was a businessman. And my sister, I remember her talking about Rob saying to them, "Hey, this guy's offering me a job." And it was $5 an hour. Well, $5 an hour is like $15 an hour now,
Right?
and or more, because when you're a teenager and you're 15 years old, $5 in 1978 an hour was big money. And he did have a job, but he was obviously being tempted with this work. And back then, everybody was scrappy, weren't they? I mean, we were little go-getters. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was. Our siblings, we were. We just went out there and we got to work right away. So that was probably very exciting for him to be like, wow, I could make, $5 an hour. And every guy at that time, they wanted to buy their own car. And
Yep.
that would have been a source of pride and excitement for him as a young 15-year-old guy to get that kind of pay. So, but something in my heart just says, I'm sure, like you were saying, this guy was just a creep. I'm sure everybody who came in contact with him had their intuition sirens going off in their brains, but because of the culture at the time, be polite, be respectful. People put a hard brake on that intuition and overrode it, often to their detriment. And I think we're better now with allowing ourselves and others to have that gut feeling and go with it without having an explanation or even understanding why. If it's a no, it's a no. I don't need to know the reason why. If my intuition's like, nope, not doing that, I'm like, correct, we are not. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. Even those small things, like I'm talking about, like when I spilled my coffee, and my intuition told me, before I left the house, grab the paper towel. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the last thing I want us to have is one more thing in my arms. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna grab some of the paper towel off the roll. I shoved it in my purse because again, didn't want to have this roll of paper towel in my arms while I'm walking out to the car. And of course, as I'm driving to my destination, enjoying my coffee, I dumped half of it down the front of my shirt. And if I had not had that paper towel, the rest of that day would have been pretty miserable. I would have been cold and sticky and wet, and it would not have been a good day. But because
Good
I
thing
listened
it
to that intuition, however begrudgingly, it served me well.
good thing it was cold.
I know.
um
I know. I'm
and
telling you, I have to believe that his intuition was probably like, don't do it, don't do it. But again, being tempted with, well, I'm in public. This is a businessman, right?
mm-hmm,
I'm at
mm-hmm.
my job.
What could go wrong?
What's gonna happen? And right. And then many years later, when I heard about the chloroform thing, I'm like, well, that's probably how he got him into the car, is that he chloroformed him out in the alley. Pretty
Yep.
brazen.
Yep. Um, like when we talked about the last podcast where um the woman that was locked in the car, I didn't get any bad
Mm-hmm.
vibes with them. So sometimes you always don't get the intuition. But I don't know if I told you this story. Was out with friends. We were at like it was a bar restaurant, real big in Schaumburg. I I can't remember the name. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was around Woodfield Mall. And we were finishing up eating, and the waitress came and brought us drinks, and we're like, we didn't order this. And she goes, oh no, the gentleman over there did. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, we should have declined it. And so here we're sipping on him. And then he comes up with his friends. And oh my God. He was what I call Igor. And Igor to me is a creepy guy. And we're talking to him,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
and I don't know how this came about, but he's like, ask me what I do for a living. And we're just like looking at each other. Okay, what do you do for a living? He goes, I'm a drug dealer. And we like all spit out our drink at the same time. And we're just like, oh my God. I don't know how, but somehow, um, I don't know if he got called away or what. I think he did. And we did not finish those drinks. And we paid our bill and we booked the hell out of there. And I says, I hope we are not getting followed. And we're just like, he could have roofied all those drinks. We don't know. So yeah, that was pretty scary. Don't accept
Right.
drinks
I
from
know. How scary
strangers.
is that? No.
Yeah.
I
And
think most women don't. They even have that nail polish or like a necklace pendant that will change colors if there's a drug in your drink.
oh, I didn't know that.
Did you
Could have
know
used
that?
that back then.
Yeah.
No,
I
I
know, right?
and the funny part about it is how Facebook, you go back to your memories, and this came up, I think within the last week I was reading it and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I remember this happening. And it was probably like,
Yeah.
oh God, when was it? Probably like 2011 that this happened. So, um, but yeah, like you said, did you tell people where they can watch this? Devil in Disguise?
Yes, it's on Peacock. And I don't think all episodes have dropped yet. I think they're dropping one a week.
I am not sure about that. Um, but a little, how do I, a little savvy, with streaming, little savvy tip. If you have Xfinity, internet, or we just have internet with them, we stream. We don't have the cable. Cable and satellite just got too expensive, so we stream. But if you have Xfinity internet, you can get Peacock for free. If you didn't know that, just
Hmm.
like if you have Walmart Plus, you get Paramount Plus free. If you have T-Mobile, you can get Hulu free. But if you want the bougie Hulu like we use, that's our main hub. Um, it's just the basic Hulu that you get. And then T-Mobile also gives you Apple. And I'm trying to think if there's any other ones where I get the free streaming. Um, I think that's it. Oh, Netflix with T-Mobile. And some of them you have commercials. It's like, what, big deal. It's free. So I like doing that. I like
Yes.
my free
Okay.
stuff.
So on to Yeah, so then on to our next topic, back to our little book club. And we hope you all are joining us on looking at these. This is a fabulous book. I don't know if anyone out in our listening audience, you can let us know if you have read the book or are reading the book, The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, with his son, Daniel Mate. I get mine off Audible, and I think yours is on Audible too, isn't it?
Yes.
So let me give you a little synopsis on Gabor. We love Gabor. Um,
He's so cute.
he is. He's, and for me as a person who, has gone through a lot of trauma, from my childhood, teenage years, and into my adulthood until I decided to remain single. Um, he has a very calming way of speaking, and he just understands, and he understands because he's been through it himself, and he's very open and raw about what he has gone through, the mistakes that he made as a parent, and helping us by writing this book to help us be better people, better parents, better everything. Um, I just so enjoy this book because it's a way of saying, everyone's dealing with something. And oh, I think the real point that I wanted to make is how important it is and how it's completely overlooked is that when a woman is pregnant, she needs to be in a very peaceful, quiet, harmonious environment because that baby is experiencing every single thing she's experiencing. And that's when trauma begins in the womb. And how important it is that the baby not be separated from the mother, that the baby be with the mother as often as possible, if not 24/7. I don't know what the age is, but as often as possible, as much as possible. And that's why I think when mothers have to go to work and they're separated from their children and put in daycare, I think that's got to be the most traumatic thing. I know it was traumatic for me when I was in my abusive relationship and I had just given birth to twins. And just within 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I had to go back to work because he refused to work. So I had to go back to work and I was still nursing my twins and I was taken from them and I didn't get to see them. And I'm sure that's traumatic to them. And when you look at this book, when you hear it, read it, you're going to better understand how detrimental that is, not only for the mother, but especially for the child. And that's what has really gotten me, um, I don't want to say hooked, but I'll say it just really drew me in. And it helps, and it just makes me sad now to think about how much I lost and how much my children lost because of the horrendous situation that we were in. And I think there were people that it could have helped that just didn't want to. And that's the other part too. Sometimes you can have family and they either can't or just flat out won't help you. Um, Very punitive parenting style with that. And we also don't want to do too much for our children. I also feel that that support system of parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and then grandparents is so devalued, undervalued, and all this family estrangement is just causing more damage to everybody involved, but especially the kids.
Yes, and that will be a podcast that we will discuss as family estrangement because we have, both of us have that.
Yes, we sure do. And unfortunately, and really initially, I mean, everyone I think feels this way. You think it's just me. This is just happening to me. And when I was seeing other women our age, Gen Xers, going through this family estrangement thing, that these adult children are being, um, basically lied to, that, well, you just shouldn't talk to your parents anymore because they made mistakes. Because, your parents were never children that experienced trauma. They came into this world perfect, and therefore they should have done everything perfectly with you. That is such a crock. And when I finally realized for myself that, no one else wants to understand what I went through, but I understand. And I'm not going to allow anybody, including my adult children, to think that they're going to lord over me and make me feel guilty about choices that I had to make when, as if I had good choices to make. There were only bad choices. Those were my only options. And like I said, people stood by and watched and did nothing to help and support. There were organizations that did help along the way. But when it came to, I had no family to support me. I got criticized. I got shamed, criticized, and then my children saw this continual berating and how people treated me badly. And then that's how people think that they can treat you. And I'm here to say, no, no, you won't treat me badly. I don't care what you saw or what you witnessed. Now you're all adults. Everyone's got to take responsibility for their actions. And there is no excuse for family estrangement because no matter what happened with my parents or my mother, I always tried to have a relationship with them, always, because that was what I wanted in my heart of hearts. And if they're content, not having if there's, any, adult child out there that's like thinks they're doing some kind of virtue signaling, or they act as though, this is such a strong thing to do. Well, sorry to say it, you're not working out any of the issues within the family, within your relationships, and you're making it worse on yourself and the children, your children, by depriving them of relationships with your family members because you can't be an adult and deal with your trauma and like the rest of us have to. How many times have you and I talked about this? How we continually strive to work on ourselves, to heal that trauma that happened to us. We're not going to sit here and point fingers and say, well, my parents, yeah, that was a long time ago. And I'm sure that they made the best choices that they could at the time with the options that they had available to them. Now it's up to me.
Yes. Um, I don't know if you know your parents. Well, let's see. Your parents' story and then your grandparents' story. So both of my grandparents came here from Italy and
Hmm.
Ireland to Ellis Island. And back then you needed to have a place to live, a sponsor, a job, and everything. That's just how things went. And I don't know why they settled in Chicago. I guess that's where their contacts were. And my mom came from a big family, bigger than my dad's. I want to say there was 12 of them. And it was common back then that the older siblings took care of the younger siblings.
Right. Correct.
And both my parents did not go any further than an eighth grade education. But you would have never known because they were both, smart in their own way. And
And they
um,
still owned a home. They owned a car. They raised their children. I
mhm.
mean,
Well, my
they were
parents never
successful.
owned. They owned a car, only one, because mom couldn't drive, and they never owned a home. They almost did, but
Oh, okay.
family estrangement happened.
Oh,
So that's the one thing I didn't want. I did not want history repeating itself, and well, apparently it
right.
has. So that's why I make sure that it will not, that it stops there and it will not continue on, and that my kids will not have the estrangement, and they don't. Only to, who that we don't want to mention. Um,
Right. I'm right. So I'll just give a quick overview. So the myth of normal, trauma, illness, and healing in a toxic culture. And this book was written in 2022, and we'll put a link in our show notes so that you can find this book.
yes. Oh, so I don't know about you. If you go and look at your memories with Facebook, I don't know how long you've been on. I've been on it since 2007, I think. And
Yeah, I got on a bit earlier, 2005.
yeah. And well, I was on MySpace,
Yeah, yeah,
where the only drama was people getting butthurt if they weren't on your top 10 or
right.
top 8 friends.
Life was so easy back then. Oh, and your
Yeah.
cell phone was dirt cheap.
Yep. So I apparently manifested in 2011. It must have been cold that day. It was November, and it said my next vehicle, because at the time I was driving in an SUV. It was a Saturn View, and it says my next SUV will have heated seats and remote start. And I do have that now. I got that back
Oh,
in
see? There you
like,
go.
God, how long ago? I've had it 3 years. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was funny. And then there was another part where it said, uh, I must have replied to somebody's Facebook page that this age and write down where you were at that age. And it's funny because I was cleaning houses like I do now. and it says one of the things I wrote, I wanted to be divorced. And I did get divorced back then.
Yes, you did.
But I was laughing. I was like, see, manifestation does work.
It does. It
So,
does. Everything that I have today is everything that I hoped, wished, and prayed for. So
yes.
it does work. It just takes time.
And I finally remembered to get my rocks off the patio table that have seen sun and moon and rain. So they're charged up. And I, I have my bracelets on. But yeah, I like I said, I kind of have a mixture of a religious and spiritual beliefs.
Me too. Me too.
So
We're
it
gonna wrap it
is,
up.
yes, it is that time. So thank you for, am I supposed to say, well, thank you for joining us. And please support our podcast, like, share,
Share,
subscribe.
subscribe.
I also added on there in the show notes you can see to support our podcast. If you can, that would be
And
lovely.
send us suggestions, book suggestions, topic suggestions, and let us know if we can share your name so we can share with everybody who gave us the suggestion.
Oh, and besides book and topic suggestions, if they're watching something like, hey, have you watched this?
Right.
And
Like the
discuss.
Menendez brothers.
Yes.
We can talk
And
about
and
that too.
if yes, and if you want to be on the podcast, you know?
Yes, let me know.
Yeah, we love interviewing people. And
Yep.
if
And
you
more interviews to
haven't,
come. Listen to Lynn at the EE um at the EE Center. It's a really great interview.
yes, yes, please. Downloads, and I've heard other podcasters say downloads don't count unless you listen. So if one is saying that, I would think that's true for all. So
Yeah, let us know. All right,
until,
everybody.
yeah, until next time, be scrappy like us.
Be scrappy. Bye.
Bye.
We love our scrappy peeps. So thank you all for joining us and becoming part of our flock. So please like, subscribe, and share. And if you don't like us, unfortunately, yo mama. But if you do like us, we look forward to seeing you next time on Two Scrappy Chicks.